A daughter stole 50,000 yuan from her family to meet someone she met online, but her mother found out. Her mother didn't scold or beat her. She simply slammed the house key and household registration book on the table, saying, "You're an adult now. You can make your own decisions, so don't come back." The girl grabbed the money, slammed the door, and left. She traveled to meet her online friend, who was initially very hospitable and generous, taking her out for food and entertainment. But within a few days, the 50,000 yuan was gone. When her friend saw she had no money, he turned on her, abandoning her on a strange street and disappearing without a trace. Penniless, she wandered the streets for 3 days, scavenging leftover bread and shivering on street corners at night. Once protected by her family, she now experienced the coldness of human nature and truly panicked, feeling utterly devastated. Unable to bear it any longer, she dragged her exhausted body home. Her mother opened the door, saw her, didn't scold or stop her, but stepped aside to let her in, then turned and went inside without saying a word. The girl hid in her room and lay there for a whole day, her heart filled with bitterness and sorrow. The next morning, her mother knocked on her door, tossed her an old apron and a pair of cloth shoes, and said, "Come with me." She silently followed, arriving at the vegetable wholesale market on the outskirts of town. Before dawn, the market was already bustling with activity, the smell of rotten vegetables and mud filling the air. Her mother found Aunt Zhang, who sold vegetables, and simply said, "Someone's here," before turning and leaving without a second thought. Aunt Zhang glanced at her, handed her a small knife, and told her to squat down and trim the rotten leaves to prepare the vegetables. Having never done any hard work before, her delicate fingers quickly cut her, getting covered in mud and water, causing her pain, but she focused intently. She wanted to slack off, but seeing everyone around her working so diligently, she could only grit her teeth and persevere. At noon, Aunt Zhang gave her a cold steamed bun. The two squatted on the muddy ground, eating the bun in the cold wind. Chewing the dry, hard bun, she understood for the first time that a peaceful life was never something to be taken for granted. In the afternoon, she helped move vegetable baskets, but being small, she tripped and fell several times, scattering vegetables all over the ground, attracting many stares. She blushed deeply with embarrassment and could only silently pick up the hemorrhoids and renumb them. That evening, her mother waited for her at the door on her old electric scooter. The two didn't speak a word the entire way. When they got home, her mother cooked her favorite dishes, but she couldn't eat a single bite. Her arms ached so much she couldn't lift them, and the wounds on her hands burned with pain. She lay in bed. The insincerity of her online friends and the dusty, bustling atmosphere of the market flashed through her mind. For the first time, she realized how absurd she had been. The next day, she still worked with Aunt Zhang on time, spending more time if she was slow, and correcting her own mistakes. After 20 days of hard work, she received her first paycheck of 320 yuan. Earning those few coins, her heart felt heavy. She didn't buy snacks or food, but went to the supermarket and bought a can of her mother's usual cooking oil and a small, gentle knife. When she placed the items on the table, her mother glanced at them, said nothing, but her eyes quietly reddened. That day, a few noisy people came to the market, shouting and yelling at the stall owners. No one dared to say a word. But the girl suddenly stood up and loudly declared that there were administrators here and that no one was allowed to bully people. The noisy people were stunned by her courage. Just then, the administrators arrived and persuaded them to leave. Aunt Zhang pulled her aside and whispered, "Your mother was extorted in this market when she was trying to support you. She didn't dare to argue or make a scene, and she secretly wiped away her tears, afraid that you would suffer because of her." The girl stood there stunned, her heart suddenly aching. For the first time, she realized how much forbearance and hardship her mother had hidden behind her seemingly tough exterior. She ran home and saw her mother rubbing her knees, which had been sore from years of hard work. She threw herself into her mother's arms, crying and admitting that she had been wrong. She took out all her New Year's money and wages, scraped together 1,200 yuan, and placed it on her mother's bedside table with a note underneath. "Pay back this first, and I'll earn the rest slowly." The next morning, the money and note were placed back by her pillow, with two words written on the back: "Keep it for now." However, she unexpectedly found a bill in front of her. Her mother had already secretly used her savings to cover the 50,000 yuan shortfall. From that day on, the girl completely changed. She focused on working at the market, diligently learning accounting and business management. She never mentioned online friends again, avoided useless social interactions, and only wanted to help her mother. In her spare time, she learned e-commerce through online courses, helping Aunt Zhang and her mother sell vegetables online, and the business became increasingly stable. 6 months later, she had saved enough money through her own efforts and solemnly handed the 50,000 yuan to her mother. Her mother watched as she gently pushed the money back, saying, "I never wanted you to repay the money." At that moment, the girl finally understood. What her mother wanted her to repay was never the 50,000 yuan, but the clarity that followed her confusion, the duty of a child, and the responsibility of an adult. True growth isn't about daring to run away from home, but about knowing how to turn back and shoulder one's own responsibilities.